Hello, Teresa here. This is project number 1 from our scrapbook project. It's very quick and easy to put in your scrapbook or in your journal or a gift tag, whatever you want to do with it. Now, I have 2 sources of inspiration for this. On the screen at the moment is a piece of work that was executed by Barbara Drinkwater of the Horsebridge Centre in Whitstable. I met Barbara and another lovely lady, Jacqueline Browning, at an artist's open day in this centre. Now, you've just seen the front of the piece of work, and this is the back. This is how she executed the back. It's a brooch. The second influence has been taken from what I found in a local river. Now, if I'd known we were coming here, I would have worn my boots, because I can see something shining. I might have to go in there. Well, I did go in there and I got my feet wet, but look what I found, 3 lovely pieces of pottery. This is my preferred piece, which I will use as for inspiration for my design, and this is just a close-up. I'm not sure how I'll use it yet, but it's gorgeous. I have to guess the edge here, but I'm guessing that it's probably symmetrical, so this bit here that's missing will basically just echo that, and a leaf as well is missing there. So that is what I've decided to do. Now, at the moment, my idea is to cut these shapes out. I'm not sure I'm going to use a felt background. I think I might use calico. Now, I've chosen the size that I want to do, and it's actually this size. Let me get that, see if I can get that in. It's this size, which is 3 1/4 inches, which is approximately 8 centimeters. So it's quite a small one, but you can choose any size that you want to. I did have another embroidery frame here. You might want one that big, which is a small embroidery frame, but on the screen it's looking quite big because of it being a close-up, and that is a 5" in diameter, which is approximately 12.5 centimeters. But as I said, this is the size I'd like. So I'm going to start on this, and I want this size, 2 circles, this size and slightly bigger. So I say slightly bigger, and that would be approximately 1/2 inch edging all the way round. Okay, so what I'm going to do is cut out some fabric here, that size, which I have done actually here. Now, I want a backing fabric, which I haven't chosen, to go on the calico. So mine will, although it's been inspired by Barbara's, it isn't going to be the same. Now, an easier way of doing this is not by cutting out the shape of the flower. Where's my inspiration here? There are 2 flowers there. Oh, you might want to say 3, but I'm going for 2 flower shapes, the center one here and the outer ring. Now, you could just get your circle the size you want, and you just cut like we used to do when we were children. Oh, that's good, these scissors are blunt. Brilliant, brilliant. Let's have another pair. Oh, I can't see them. So we just cut these into flower petals shapes, and I'm afraid this is really rough. Now, this is a really badly cut flower, but this would be the idea, and then you'd cut another one smaller or larger depending on the size of your circle, and you'd place it over there. Now, that's just a demonstration. I'm not using that. It's quite dreadful. Now, another idea is to find some nice fabric that you have, and then put your circle there, and you might find that's enough. that might just be enough for what you want, and then you could embellish that further if you wanted. Yeah, there are several of those on this, so that is another option. A nice piece of fabric with a pretty motif. You could do that, and once again you could add your slow stitch to it once it's on the calico background, or once it's on your felt background, like that. And this is particularly nice. This is charity shop as well, as was the last one, and this would look wonderful, just that, with some beads or some surface stitchery on there, beads in the centre. It's all textile and it's all designing. You're being inspired by this. It's already there, so you need to change it. You need to put your stamp on it and change it into your design. So this could just be the basis, your inspiration, and now you're going to embroider it. You're going to exaggerate areas or eliminate them by covering them up. So with your circle, there we go, like so. Now this is something, this was a challenge that I did some time ago, and underneath, as if you remember, it's cross stitch. It was incomplete cross stitch which I finished, so I was inspired by the cross stitch, but I changed it. I've changed it to applique and surface stitchery. Now this is what I think I would like to do with my circle. Similar to that. You see how that looks? Now, just similar but not copying it. And on the larger circle, see, that would look lovely. And of course you don't have to have that in the centre with any of your designs. You could just take a part of it. So just move that around. You might not want the whole of that. You might want it off centre. So just play around with your fabric. If you have a piece of fabric that you think, I'd like to do something with that, then by all means use it. As I said, I'm not sure I'm going to do it that way yet. I need to go away and have a think to see if I'm going down the felt route, if I'm going to start from scratch, cutting out my shapes, or after having worked this out when I'm talking, I might actually go down this route, applique shapes like this. I could cut them out. Yeah, so I need to go away and just think about this. I thought I had it wrapped up, but while I'm talking something else is emerging. Also got this, and I think this is lovely. You've all seen this before, and it's just a tiny, well, it's really tiny now, piece of sequin fabric. You could put that over a nice, a deep colour, and then once again do that, move that, and just pick out the shapes in stitchery, which is a brilliant idea, and I might do that. So I shall get back to you shortly, and after I've worked out what I'm going to do, I'll get back and we'll take it from there. I prepared the fabric. I've put this really lovely satiny golden silvery blingy fabric, if you can see it glistening there. I've attached that to calico, but before I did that I put just some light interfacing on the back of this because I thought it would stop the fraying. However, it didn't, so I've had to put an edging, a border around there of zigzag to stop the fray, and you can see here how it just frays. So that would have been impossible to work with. So now it should be okay. If you haven't got a sewing machine and you are working with fabric that frays, just do a very large over sewing stitch all the way around, and that should stop it fraying. Especially if you also interface it. Now, I like this, quite happy with that, although in my head I thought, well, that isn't really going to notice anyway, because I'm going to cover that with a flower and stitchery. So I had a thing, and then I went back to this, and I thought, really, where's my pottery? The flower in the pottery is very much like this. Not so many layers, but it's very much like this. And I thought, so why reinvent the wheel when that is staring at me? Not too keen on the colours for this particular work, so I cut out one of these from here, cut that out, and there we are. I cut out that much, you can see it there, and I've put the interface in. I've interfaced this as well to stop it fraying. I've put the interface in on the right side, and that just tones down the brightness and the loudness of all those colours, which, although I love them, I don't want on this work. So there it is. It's all muted now, so that's the interfacing has gone on the front, on the highly bright side. So the front is now interfaced and becomes the back. That is the back of the fabric. If I show you this again, so we now have, there's the front, bright and bold, and there is the back, muted. So that is nice, I like that. So the next thing I'm going to do here is just centralise it. Just keep referring back to the size I want. I'm not actually going to mark it at the moment. I don't think I'm going to mark round there in any way, shape or form. I'm just going to keep referring back to this size. Now I will tack this on. I should pin it first, and then I should tack around there, and then that will be mounted in this frame. I'm actually going to use this frame, so it's going to be mounted on there. But before I do anything, I will tack around the edge. So in from the back, put a knot in the end of your thread, nice knot. Whoops, a big enough knot so it doesn't pull through. So do as I say and not as I do. And then we're just going to just big stitches all the way around. Don't worry about how these stitches look. It really is just to hold them down, hold the template, the shape, the flower, whatever, just to hold that in place to enable us to sew it. And then when you get to the where you started, just take it through to the back, oversew a couple of times and cut off, because that will come out later anyway. So that is ready, that's in place. All I'm going to do now is pop it in the frame. Now I should say beforehand that my squares of fabric are, let's measure, 7 inches square. So 7 inches is approximately 18 centimeters. Okay, so 7 inches square, approximately 18 centimeters. So this is going onto the 5-inch frame. I'm going to pop it in the center like so. Put that out of the way and just click it down. That's it. Tighten it up as tightly as it will go. That's it, and that's nice and taut. That should stay in place. Occasionally I will probably have to tighten it, but there we are. Now that is my working surface now, and that is what I want. So I'm going to add some surface stitchery around here, and I think I will start with blanket stitch. So after I've made a start with the blanket stitch, sorted out the colours of the thread, then I'll get back and show you how it's looking. I can see at this stage I might have to cover up the orange. I'm not sure, because it's an evolving piece of artwork, it will take its own form. At the moment in my head I'm thinking cover the orange, but we'll see. We'll just see how it pans out. Okay, so there's that, and there's the inspiration. Unfortunately it looks as if I won't get the leaves in, but it's not a million miles away, is it, from that to this? Okay then, so I'm going to make a start with the blanket stitch, and I'll get back to you very shortly. I'm just going to do a quick recap on the buttonhole stitch, or the blanket stitch really, just for those of you who need a little refreshing, or those of you who haven't done this before. It's really easy and it has such a lovely effect. This is a buttonhole. It's actually blanket stitch. It gets called buttonhole, but it isn't actually. It's blanket stitch in the round to make pinholes. This is the blanket stitch we're going to do to edge two pieces together. You can use that to edge a single piece as well. And I've taken this from our stitches book. That's from one of them. And then I have similar in this one as well. The pinwheel here and pinwheels here. But as I've just said, we're going to use it in the long strip. Okay, and it is so easy. I'm going to carry on now, and I'm going to do that stitch around the edge of my piece of work. But before I do that, before I start that, I'm just going to show you this as well. I happened to find this and it takes us back to the beginning of this video of how you can use other pieces of work or fabric. So it's just a little bit of a recap on what happened a couple of minutes ago. So this is a piece of needle weaving, and it's actually a card, a Christmas card. But by popping your frame over here, you can get an idea of how you could use this in your piece of work. Okay, and the sellotape there, that centre bit sits just nicely there. Can you see how nice that would look on a piece of work, the sort we're doing at the moment? See how nice that would look on this, on the centre of that. Okay, but I just thought I'd run that past you just very, very briefly. Now I'm now going to carry on with this, and I'm going to do the stitch, the blanket stitch, all the way around the edge. So the next time you'll see this, hopefully the outline here will have the blanket stitch around the edge, and who knows, I might even start doing that if I get carried away. But until we know whether I get carried away or not, I'm going to start with the orange. But colours, I think I might stick to the blue. I might keep to the colours on here, the dark blue, light blue, and the white. Okay, so all the blues that are on here I might bring over here. I'm not sure how it will work. It should work because blue and orange are complementary colours, so it should work. But anyway, we'll see how it goes, and I'll get back to you very soon. And there's the first row done around the edge there, and what I've done, I've elongated the stitch to fit the spaces, so we have nice contrast going on here against the long stitches here, which are filling the big spaces, set against the smaller stitches here, so we have the contrast between long and short there, big space and smaller space, narrow space. So I'm quite pleased with that. I'm going to carry on now possibly with blanket stitch. I've decided at the moment that I might put some beads around here as well, edge it in beads, but as you know, that's likely to change. So just for the time being, I'm going to carry on with the blanket stitch. I'll probably start that row there, or even this one here. I'm not too sure yet. Then I'll work out what to do in the middle. But anyway, it didn't take long to do. I don't think this project's going to take very long at all, and it's really enjoyable. So I'm going to crack on and just see how far I can get using the one stitch, the blanket stitch. As you can see here, I've taken it out of the frame. I started the first row with the fabric in the frame, and that was fine, but then it became a little bit difficult, so I've taken mine out of the frame. It's really up to you how you work yours, but for me it's now easier to work this outside of the frame. Now I've used this is all blanket stitch, and I've used it the correct way, like for edging. Then I've used it back to back here, and that's what gives the spiky caterpillar here with the legs pointing outwards. So that's back to back, and then I have a blanket stitch here filling the spaces. So although it's the one stitch, it's been used a couple of ways, at least 3 ways, just on this tiny little piece here. Now I've deliberately left this area plain because I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I've decided that before I do that, I need to add something else to here. I'm not liking how it's looking at the moment, so I thought I need to add something, but not too much, because this is only going to be a very small piece of work. So I don't want it too overpowering, shall I say, and I don't want to extend past the end of the spiky bits now. So what I decided to do is go back to the net. As you know, I love using net as an overlay, but I didn't want to use white net. Now the only coloured net that I have is this, and you might remember this from other projects, the offcuts from the side. In fact, I think this might have been part of an artichoke project. I'm not sure, I can't remember, but anyway, this is what's left, the layers of net. So I've already started cutting some. I just cutting along there, these layers, and then I only want little pieces to go around the edge, so I'm cutting the stitching along the row of stitching, and that's machine stitch if you remember, and then just opening up the layers. There we go. Right, so let's get that, put that on some white card, and I think you might be able to, yeah, you can definitely see the red ones. There are 2 red pieces there, and a pink one, and 2 lemon ones. The lemon ones haven't come out too well on the screen, but these are the ones I'm going to use, and all I'm going to do here is attach them around the edge, just around the outside edge. I'm just going to put them down in place and sew them down, and that just adds another dimension to it. It actually adds another colour. Let me just make that bigger. You see, that is just the red, so that's added some colour already. If I take that off there, now I'll put the red down, so there's a bit more colour going on there. The lemon ones, if I pop those there, now that's creating even more colour here. So, and I've got one over there, I could pop that over there. So all I'm going to do now is play around with these little pieces. I have some more here that I cut. there. So I'm just going to play around with those and attach them, sew them down in place around the edge, and then stand back again and have a look just to see what I need to do next. But I definitely do like this effect with the coloured net, and I mean, goodness, there only really are offcuts in the brad bag. Yeah, I think that's going to look really nice. And then these pieces that are extending, like that piece there, I should just trim these off so they're contained within that, the outer edge. Okay, so that's the next thing I'm going to do, and as soon as I've made a bit of a headway there, I'll get back to you and show you. Well, it didn't take very long, only a few minutes, and I have put the lace or the net down here, as you can possibly see on the screen. I've overlapped it in some areas as well, and I've used the yellow or the lime green, the pink and the red all the way around the edge here. Now I've also put these, they're like beads but they're not, they're string, they're in a length like string. They always remind me of little dustbin lids, and they're just like curved sequins here. I've deliberately left that open or free of these blue seeds sequins, because when I did hold it around there, it just looked a bit too much. Now I don't know if perhaps later I might put them back. I'm not quite sure yet, but just for the time being I'm just going to leave that free. But to make a balance, I've used sequins around here, and it's that piece of fabric that I've used before, and I keep saying that's all I've got left. Well, it's getting smaller and smaller, so this is all I've got left now. So I just took a piece off and I've just put it down there. So this, you can just about see them sparkling there. So in my head, and hopefully visually, that is providing a little bit of balance with all the sparkly blingy bits. Now I've also put a dark thread underneath the edge here, underneath all these spiky bits of the blanket stitch, and I just love doing that. It's a lovely effect. So I do enjoy doing that. It's taking on a very blue look, which I like because I'm trying to get away from the orange here. Not quite sure at the moment what I'm going to do here. I need just to sit back for a while and have a look. The next step, no, I'm not even sure what the next step is without spending a cup of coffee and a few minutes just looking. I don't know whether to go round the shapes here, just to define them a little bit, because now they're under the net, they're not as prominent as they were. So anyway, I will make a start and I'll get back as soon as I've decided what's coming next, how to move this forward. Hopefully, well, for you it won't be very long, hopefully for me it won't be very long either. Okay, so I did actually finish it. I don't think I introduced any other stitches apart from the French knots here. You can see them going all the way around the edge. I've scattered them. But apart from that, what have I done? Oh, I've done some running stitch around here, around the actual petals of the flower. Some running stitches around the shape of the flower. But everything else is blanket stitch, and we already mentioned the trim here, the blue sparkly trim. So that's that. Oh, and I did put some beads here, just halfway round, and I just thought that C shape there, it probably looks like a U on the screen. Yeah, it looks like a U there. To me, I'm looking at C. It echoes this shape here, which is a C or a U, depending on which way you're looking at this. So that is now finished. I'm just going to recap over French knots, how to do the French knot very, very briefly, because I think you probably all know now how to do this. Once again, this is all exaggerated so you can see it on the screen. So a knot in the bottom of your thread, bring it from the back to the front, wherever you want your French knot. All you're going to do now is hold that thread down. Do it this way. Hold that thread down. With your needle, you're going to twist the needle around like this and then go back down, but not in the same place. Otherwise you might pull it through. And there you go. And just pull it through. And there is your French knot. Okay, and they are so easy to do. So you're just going to twist it round, and of course the more you twist the needle around the thread, the bigger and the thicker your knot will be. So that's twisted once. So 1, 2, 3, we'll do it 4 here, and then back. Not back into the same hole, and there you go, a big chunky one. Okay, so that's all there is to French knots. Now, getting back to this, the next step of this is to back this. Now I'm going to back this with card to give it a nice smooth finish. So my card, I've already cut the card out. Now the card is the size of my frame, the outside, round here. It's the outside, not the inside. I want the outside. And I just want to very, very simply find the centre. So I'm folding it one way in half, then I'll fold it another way to make a cross like that, and there is the half there. Okay, and this is to make sure I get this central, so I have a nice edge around here. Now I want to do the same here. I'm going to do it this side, match it up, half there, so that's half there. Right, now let's see if that marries up, and then I'm going to fold it this way, half there, and yeah, oh that's brilliant, that is half there. So I'm going to match those up. I'm going to put a pin through there. It's actually where that bead is, it's where the bead is. So I've just popped a pin there, you can see it there, pin through the centre, and I'm going to marry it up here through the centre there. Lovely, there we go. So I'm just going to run round that. So I've just gone round there just to make life a little bit easier. Now this I'm going to stick down on here, so not too much glue. I'm just going to hold it, marry these up like that against the pencil mark, and just leave that for a while it dries. And that doesn't, well, it doesn't take long. It looks as if it's actually holding in place now. So the next thing I'm going to do is decide how much, we call this the seam allowance, okay, because this bit is going to be folded over and gathered. So I'm going to make mine, let's say about 1/2 an inch. Let's have a look. Yeah, yes, right. It's a bit small actually, so I'm going to draw around here where I want it. You don't actually have to have one of these. You could do this freehand and just watch it. I think the saying is eyeball it. So there's my pencil mark all the way round, and that is just my guide. That's stuck nicely. Lovely. Now I'm not cutting it yet, I'm going to cut it after I've sewn it around the edge. So in your needle, nice sharp needle here, but not too thick. You want it to slide in and out of your fabric, not the end of your thread. And I've used a nice strong sewing, machine sewing thread, double. You need it to be nice and strong so when you're pulling it later, it doesn't break. So all I'm going to do is start off, I'll over sew it here just to lock the stitch so it doesn't come out, and then I'm going to sew it all the way around, a running stitch, not too big because you don't want to cause pockets, and by that I mean when you gather it up you don't want any big pleats. The bigger the stitch, the more likely you're going to get a big pleat. So just going to go all the way around the edge back to the beginning. Now when you get to the end, you don't want to knot it this end, okay? So take it back to the beginning, but don't knot it, just break your thread. It's a bit hopeless, isn't it, looking up there and seeing this white on white. Now at this stage I'm just going to trim around the edge here. Now you can trim first, but when you're using a frayable fabric like I am here, it makes it easier to work by cutting it after like I am, because it cuts out the fraying. Had I cut around the shape before I did this sewing, this little bit of gathering, there was a chance that this fabric would fray, and I don't want that. So it's up to you how you do it. If you haven't got a fabric that frays, then you could very well cut around it first, but this is, as we know, very frayable, and I wasn't going to risk it. Right, so there we are. Now we're going to go back to the stitching, to the thread that's hanging, and just pull it. And this is why you need a really strong thread, so it doesn't break while you're pulling it. There we go. I'll make that a little bit bigger. Right, let's make sure that's in the center. Lovely. I'm going to just move that over a little bit, and that's the good thing about stick glue. You get time to move around, whereas if I had used the hot glue on this, that would be firmly stuck. Yeah, I think that's how I want it. So we're going to pull that again. So I'm going to secure that all the way around the, or around the edge, not all the way round, and then I'll knot that off so that shouldn't come undone. There we go, and that is lovely. Right, so there we are, and I didn't want it even around there. I like the contrast. Don't forget the contrast, close against far. Don't forget your spacing. It's up to you. You might like it more even around there. It's entirely up to you. Now the next thing is to cover up this. So I've cut out a piece of felt the same size as the outside of our little frame there, or whatever circle we're using. I've cut that out, and now that is going to be placed on here and just sewn into place with a tiny little over sewn stitches, just so the back looks neat, that's all. Well, I think that is a good size. Yeah, that looks good. I'm going to use the machine thread again. So I'm going to knot the end like so, nice knot, and then between the two here I'm going to go in and just loose the knot inside, over sew it just to lock it, and then just tiny little stitch from one side to the other, just neat and small. It doesn't matter so much if you're not going to see the back of your work, that doesn't matter, but if you're going to see it, then I do advise that you try to keep it neat, especially if you're going to make these as well, gift tags or little presents, pieces of jewellery. There is so much you can do with these. I bought mine as a badge, and it's just lovely, especially with Christmas coming, to make them a little bit blingy. Maybe you could put Christmas tree on there. It doesn't have to be a flower, but it's always nice to do your own design, and not, well, no, it's up to you. I was going to say not the Christmas tree gimmicky things, but no, why not? Why not? So I'm just going to carry on and secure this now all the way round until I get to the beginning. I'm just going to pop it on this background fabric for a while, just so that you can see what I've done. I've finished sewing the felt on the background with the tiny little oversew stitches, and while I was on the back I thought I might as well attach the pin. Now you can see the stitches here. It's a bit tricky to sew these on. There, once again, they're oversew stitches on the top of the pin, through the loop here, and then through the top there. And I've only oversewn mine once, and there you go, opens and closes, and it's quite easy to do. So that's, the back is completely finished, the front is finished. Now you might decide that if your front looks like this, right, that's mine, that you'd like to add a few more bits of decoration there. You could add whatever you like around the side to finish yours off if you feel that yours is a little bit unfinished. Well, I did have two of those here. I'm leaving mine as it is because I do like the border around there, but you could add broken earrings to yours. You could have something dangling from the bottom, and if it has a lobster claw like this one, you only have to attach it on the back through the fabric, so you'll end up with a little jewel or a gem there hanging. Once again, more broken earrings. It's entirely up to you how you decorate yours. If you wanted this to be a gift tag or to attach it in your journal, just oversew it on the back, or with a big needle just hook it into itself through the fabric and you've got something there that dangles. Okay, so I'm calling this finished now. I'm just going to bring up the original. Oh, and that piece of ribbon there I think is quite nice, and you could put ribbon on yours at the top or at the side or wherever you want. There's so many ways of decorating it, but as I said, mine is finished. It's actually looking a bit fossil-like, isn't it? I'm just going to get the original one here. Right, so we have, I'll make this smaller now. We have the inspiration from the scrapbook. So that's the inspiration there. And that was another piece of inspiration. So my piece here grew from this and this. I think you can see, well, I hope you can see that there is a similarity here between the flowers. The petals have come out particularly well, and the centre here, and the edge, around the edge. So it is just inspiration. These 2 pieces were just inspiration, not to be copied. So I hope you enjoyed that. Very quick, short, sharp project from the scrapbook. So do give it a try. That one's got some lovely buttons there, and if you remember rightly, that was the back of the Camembert box, and that's mine with felt. Okay, so if you like this, could you please like it and subscribe if you haven't. If you don't like it, just go on past, okay? But anyway, I'll see you shortly with project number 2, and I'm still not sure yet what project number 2 will be. It could be a fossil or it could be a giraffe, okay? But anyway, I'll catch up with you soon. Enjoy this, and leave your comments, won't you? So take care now, and I'll see you shortly.